Esther first saw the Armenian man, who groveled towards her and stood by her side with a bucket that swung in his hand. His grin stretched the folds of his pasty white cheeks, and his lips hurled a dollop of murk on the curb, and the lights from the rides showed a mischievous sparkle that flashed in his hollow white stare. He said, "Little girl, you could chop off my legs and peel off my socks if you want to, but I'd rather you took this old puppet from me that I hold in my pail as we speak." And she stood looking down at the innocent girl, as she stood as there the bucket bewildered, till he lifted the doll for the young girl to see, and a giant smile grew on his face. She saw the doll's eyes and couldn't resist. She thanked the man quickly and ran to the church. She burst through the doorway with puppet held high, and a hush filled the chapel, and the people looked mean. Esther tried in vain to pacify the mob. Quibble grew to spat and to wrangle, then to brawl. The frenzied congregation struggled desperately to fetch the pretty puppet snugly nestled deep in Esther's leather sack. Through the window of the church a storm began to rage, and Esther knew the time had come to flee. She scurried down the aisle towards the doorway in the distance and out into the rainstorm, where she felt she could be free. But the wind was blowing harder and her skirt began to billow, until finally her feet began to lift. And she rose above the houses and the people in the chimneys, and Esther and the doll were set adrift, floating higher over the hills and the valleys and treetops. They flutter and glide, soaring and turning, suspended on air, with the earth far below them. They tumble and dive through the clouds. Began to tumble earthward till they landed in the nasty part of town. She glanced about the village, sure to find the evil men who will rob and pillage in the darkest hour of night. Nervously she fumbled for the patch that held the puppet on her rump. Feeling quite outnumbered, Esther hid behind a nearby pile of lumber, where she waited till the dawn. 'Cause it would have been a blunder to succumb to a hoodlum on the prowl. wandered through the streets along a chilly lake that lay beside a town. At last, a peaceful moment, though she thought she heard a sound. It was an angry mob of joggers running up to knock her down. As Esther stood and shook her head, the joggers were approaching, and she knew she had no choice left but to swim. As the frosty water sank its bitter teeth into her hide, she tried to slide the heavy clothing from her skin. Naked now, she made her way towards the shore, when suddenly she felt a tiny tug at her toe. And the puppet she'd forgotten wrapped its tiny little arms around her ankle, and it wouldn't let her go. The waves seemed to open and swallow her whole, as the water turned her down to the eerie green deep, and the sound of the laughing old man filled her ears, drifted away to tranquil and motionless sleep.